Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the Grumpy Dads podcast. As usual, we have with us Chris.
Hello.
And this week we have an amazing guest, the fabulous Rachel Mason. If you don't know who Rachel Mason is, she was one of the judges on Sing Ultimate Acapella. She is an author and she's about to have a book on postnatal depression published. And she is the winner of the Freelance Musician of the Year or Songwriter of the Year, was it?
No, just Freelancer of the Year. All of the
Freelancer of the Year.
All of the freelancers.
The fabulous Rachel Mason, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's kick off the show as you usually do with Icebreaker Antics. I scour the net, I look for products and go through the 1-star reviews. You have to guess the product based on the reviews.
Amazing.
So you get 3 reviews. If you guess it on the first review, you get 3 stars. If you guess it on the second review, 2 stars. And the last review was 1 star. Duncan will be joining you this week, as he usually does. He is Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to stuff. He's useless one week, he's great the next. He's kind of averaging out. So hopefully he will be some help.
That's basically nothing in real life, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes not.
Have you been following my serial killer profiles?
Yeah.
Let's kick off with the very first product. So, first review. I had to get help from my partner. As soon as he managed to zip it up and I breathed out, the zip broke.
Corset.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say a corset or a wetsuit or...
I didn't mention, did I? I should have said that in the rules. One guess. No, it's not. No, it's not. And corset. Do they come with zips?
I don't know. Are you saying I need a corset?
Second review. I got an XXL and this was so tight, but when my thighs rub, it sounds like I'm farting.
Who would write this? Why would you share that?
I'm veering towards some kind of strap-on paraphernalia, but I don't want to go there.
Is that your guess, Duncan, or not?
I'm going to go with some kind of jeans or leather pants.
No, it's not. Yes, if we can make a makeup run, that's it. It's the thumbnail. That's what we want.
Oh, like biking shorts?
No, it's a good guess, but no.
Oh, can you imagine a zip in biking shorts, though?
Where would that go? Oh, yeah.
Did you ever, the guy's the lead singer for the Kaiser Chiefs? He's a judge in a talent show. You might have seen him. He's got this thing where he was saying all bike pants should have him or her written on the back. So if you're driving behind them and you're going, oh, it's a guy,
Right, final review. Same as what others have stated. Too small. Spent 20 minutes to get in it and over 45 minutes getting it off.
Oh my gosh.
This has got me stumped.
This is really weird.
I will give you one clue. It is weird.
Is it
something that you can get in Ann Summers?
Why would I answer that, Rachel? Why would I say, yes, it is?
Because you're being nice to me. Is it something my mum would say is unsavoury?
Oh, definitely.
Duncan knows my mum and
If I was to admit that was in Ann Summers, that means that I would be admitting that I look at stuff in Ann Summers, so there's no way I'm answering that.
Have you been trawling the Ann Summers website? Is that where this still come from? Oh, I'm just looking for the reviews, love. I'm not.
I could have used that as an excuse, couldn't I? I could have used it as an excuse. I'm going to use it as an excuse.
I'm going to go for some kind of kinky strap-on.
No,
something.
It's not.
Not that I know.
No, it's not a farting strap-on. That's completely out of the way. I'm going to give you a hint. It's full body.
Am I right with wetsuit?
You're along the right lines, man.
Oh, it's like a Spider-Man outfit or a Batman or... No, because Spider-Man's Marvel. Batman or Catwoman?
Yes, finally. It is a
Catwoman outfit. That's what everybody wants.
Exactly, yeah. The second one, I plugged it in and was excited with how powerful it was, but then the plug exploded.
There's a theme with these today from you, Chris.
Yeah, it must have been at the time when I was researching them. Because they all go around the same sort of theme.
I'm going to go a power drill.
No.
It's probably something really boring, like an iPad charger or something, isn't it?
You can't answer with a question, Rachel.
iPad charger.
iPad charger. No. It is a good guess. It fits in with it all. Second review. My God, it's powerful. I couldn't use it for more than a minute. Any longer, I would have been screaming in pain.
Is it some kind of massage?
What are you doing with your hand?
Massage in the back.
I don't know what this is. I'm going to give you that, Duncan. So you've earned Rach 2 stars. The last review for it was, it doesn't feel good at all. I put it on my problem area and it made it worse. And it was a neck massager. Neck massager. So final product. So we're up to 3 stars. Sorry. Final product. Do you have any idea how dangerous this is, going 40 miles per hour and holding on to it?
Scooter?
No.
I'm gonna go. Segway?
No. Next review. Cheap. Chin strap held firm but ended up in a bush because it covered my face.
Is it like a camera helmet?
Oh, I suppose I'm going to give it you.
Like a GoPro thing? Or
Yeah.
It was a bike helmet. A very, very cheap bike helmet. No GoPro or anything on
covers
it.
your face.
Basically, it had massive faults with the strap, so people going along and it falling over them. Last time I buy this brand, it got a leak, and I wear glasses. I fogged up and had to stop every few minutes. So yeah, it wasn't particularly good. That's 5 stars. So you are firmly placed in second. Duncan, don't spoil it. No, because you're going to turn around and say that she's last.
What last?
How dare you? Well, I'm really offended now.
But let's kick off the podcast. We've got a few questions for you. The first one was, what was the process of you going on to the Sky One show, Ultimate Acapella?
Ultimate Acapella.
Sing Ultimate Acapella, yeah. It was the weirdest thing. I had just had a baby, Layla, who was then 8 weeks old. So I was covered in baby puke and, you know, all the disgusting things that, you know, just general mum things, in a pair of grey joggers covered in sick. And
you just become permanently sticky, don't you?
Yeah. Everything's just grim, and there's just these unidentified stains, and you're like,
the stuff that you used to like, the stuff that they used to just really gross you out. Like suddenly you're like, oh, the baby's puked in my mouth. And it's just like, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah, fine. They sneeze on you, and you're just, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you stop being disgusted by things pretty quickly after having children. So I got this email. I was holding Layla, covered in sick. I got this email from a chap called Dan, who was one of the producers for the show. And it was this lovely email saying we were creating a show for Sky One, it was an unnamed show at that point, and explained what it was. And they wanted judges who were real specialists in the a cappella world. And I'd done quite a lot of a cappella judging for different competitions and things, nothing televised, but lots of festivals and different things. And he said, we'd really like you to be one of the judges. I said to my husband, that's probably not a great idea, is it? Because it was a week in London of filming every day. And I thought, that's not really going to work because I have a tiny baby, and it was going to be a couple of months from then, and Layla would only have been sort of 3 months old still. And I thought, we can't really do that because I can't take her to the studio and have her on set there. And also, I look I'm not TV ready. I think if they saw me, they'd think, yeah, not that. It's not what we want. So I contacted Dan and said, look, I've just had a baby. Maybe somebody else would be better suited. And he said, no, we really want you. So, okay. And he said, what can we do to make this happen for you? And I said, well, if my husband can come as well, and we bring the baby, and we have like a suite in a hotel so we can look after her, and Tom can go off and do things with her during the day, and then I can see her the rest of the time, then that would be all right. And they were like, all right, done.
Wow.
So they
Was
it ever mentioned on the show then? that you'd just had a baby?
No, it was never mentioned. I told Kat, who was the host, and she had a little boy then. And actually, she was pregnant with her second child when we shot the show, but she hadn't told anybody then. She's still like a tiny little stick, and she was actually pregnant with her second little boy. So I had sparkly things on the top and then maternity trousers on the bottom because I was still really fat. I just made sure I never stood up.
That's basically what we do on here. I got pajamas on underneath. I'm not
Me too.
Pajamas, if you're lucky.
Do you keep in touch with anybody from the show still?
Yeah, nearly everybody. It was just the nicest group of people because it was done in a really nurturing way. So the whole show there was no kind of bad judge, no one was mean, everybody was really nurturing and kind.
It was one of the nice things about it, wasn't it? There was no one who was there just trying to play the villain. It was actually genuinely all really good, constructively critical feedback, but also praised the right stuff as well.
I'm going to go to a question that I was going to ask at the end. I think it's relevant now, actually. What is your opinion on Britain's Got Talent and X Factor?
I used to watch X Factor and Pop Idol from back in the day. I used to watch that when I was at uni because it was just something that was on TV.
Yeah. But
as I've kind of got older and more into the industry, I know how artificial it is. I know people who've gone on the show, and I know one of the series producers from the show, and I know that it's pretty false. And there's a lot of things that happen before it's seen on TV. So those poor people who go and sing in front of the judges and are terrible, and then they're really deflated when the judges say, "Oh, you're awful. Who told you were good?" It's all the producers from the previous 5 or 6 rounds they've had to go through before.
Yeah.
So it's pretty soul crushing for people. And I think the world's just sort of had enough of those competitions now.
Really dwindling, and yeah, you're right. And I think that's actually come out. A few people have turned around and said, "Look, this is the process." And they are looking for genuine talent, or at least something they can put across as genuine talent after the auto-tunes and everything else. But they're also looking for that entertainment right at the start of the show.
Yeah.
So that's delusional and thinks the next Beyonce, whatever. And
I think it's the fact that so many really talented people wouldn't get through on it. I think it was Dave Grohl said, there's no way he'd get through a show like X Factor. No one would pick him for his voice, but he's one of the biggest rock stars on the planet. Yeah,
you need to be this very specific package. So people like Leona Lewis did very well because she was exactly what they were looking for. And actually she was asked to audition. Some people are asked to audition. So she was kind of a front runner from the beginning, really. So it was quite likely she was going to win.
Well, it's becoming more difficult for them, isn't it? Because of the likes of social media and the fact that all information's at our fingertips. They can't really, as when the show first started, they could sort of cherry pick who they want and basically almost know the final lineup before they've even come into audition. But now, with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of these things who are already showcasing their talents, it's so difficult for them to use the same tricks as what they used 10 years ago, isn't it?
Were there any truly awkward moments on Sing Ultimate Acapella? Ones where you just thought, I want to be anywhere else but sitting in this seat right now?
Yes, there was. And I was like, damn it, why is it me who has to get to talk after this? It was the group of doctors that came on. And then we had a group of female doctors who sang. And they were really good, actually. They're genuine, real doctors. And they all came on with black dresses and stethoscopes. And they looked gorgeous. And they sang and were really good. And then a group of male doctors came on, fully in scrubs. Had a great time, but were really not the greatest singers, and got really out of time because they got so excited about being on stage. And I had to comment afterwards, and I said, because we were told all the way through the show, there's no booing, there's nothing like that. But the warm-up guy had just spoken to the audience. It's the same warm-up guy that they have on Strictly. He's a really funny chap, and he said to the audience immediately before this bit was filmed, because it's quick stop-start when they film it. If the judges say something you don't agree with, you can boo. He said that to the audience. I said to these doctors, so what we're looking for is timing and vocal accuracy and and not all those elements came together today. Boo! Oh. And I was like, and they went, but it looks like you had really great fun.
Oh, backtrack quickly.
I went, oh my god, they booed me. And I was like, that was so cringy. And I thought, oh, they'll reshoot it. They won't want the booing, and they didn't. That's actually like on TV with me getting booed.
Is that your first time getting booed though on the show?
Yeah, because nobody gets booed. I was the only person ever to get booed.
Wow.
That was the one time the warm-up guy said that, but he just never said it to any of the other audiences.
Wow.
It's very pantomime-y. It just really took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting that.
The tricks they use, I think people just see through them now. Like, a person comes out and they start singing and it's truly god awful. It's like a dog that's just howling. And then Simon puts up his hand and then goes, wait a minute. Have you got anything else to sing? And you're thinking, hold on, they've just burst my eardrums with that horrific
It's not going to get better. Yeah.
Why are you asking them to do another song? And then all of a sudden, they become the world's greatest singer. And then Simon takes the credit. I think we're starting to live in a world where authenticity is becoming key. Those scripted bits, when they're caught, you might as well cancel a show because a show can't be trusted if it's been caught out to be staged. I don't think that can be scripted either, can it? The bad singer, especially when they don't accept the judges' opinions.
Oh, you've got to love a diva moment on the X Factor. They are worth watching.
When one punched another one on stage for not singing.
Oh, yeah, the girls.
The two girls.
One of my students knows the girl who did the punching, and she was like,
wow.
That kind of girl.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So I was wondering if that was staged, so apparently not.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that can't be real. That can't be real. Kerry was like, yeah, she's kind of like that.
I'm going to choose a moment on camera in front of millions of people to deck my best friend.
You kind of imagine that goes on in like really rock and roll bands. Like that's probably what happened to Guns N' Roses at some point. But
you know that happened, definitely.
Easily, yeah.
Somewhat tragically bringing this up now, but I was reading about 6 months ago, read a Eddie Van Halen biography, and it was talking about all the infighting that went in there. But yeah, I was obviously gutted this week with that news that he's passed on. So rest in peace, Eddie.
You're a vocal coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a look on your website, and you've got is it a guarantee? Can I call it a guarantee? 100% vocal exam pass rate.
You set the exam.
Well, there's loads of different exam boards. So when I was growing up, the only one there really was the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music, which most people use, and it's all classical. So I did my classical piano grades, and then I did some classical singing grades. And then other music colleges started bringing out their own ones. So Guildhall did one, and then Trinity. So all of the big schools in London. And then they started doing musical theatre ones when they realised that people really wanted to like properly study musical theatre rather than just going down the kind of opera and operetta kind of route. And so I mostly now teach musical theatre exams. So the London College of Music do an exam board, do a range of musical theatre exams and pop exams as well. So the pop ones are quite different to musical theatre. The musical theatre ones are great because you get to dress up as the character. So you are Elphaba from Wicked, and you do Defying Gravity, and you're like, rocking it. And it's amazing. Some of my students have done really, really push the boundaries. One of them did my girlfriend who lives in Canada from Avenue Q, which I don't know if you know, but it's got a lot. So he's a character who's actually gay, but he's pretending he's not gay by pretending he's got a girlfriend who lives in Canada. And he just says really inappropriate things. And he just did the whole song, and the examiner was like, right. With a hand puppet, and it was just amazing. So you can do a lot of musical theatre nowadays has quite a lot of quite interesting themes. If you're just doing like Rodgers and Hammerstein, it's all very like beautiful stuff. But the newer stuff is really dark. Some of it's really dark, and that's the Beetlejuice musical, which is amazing. And the School of Rock musical, which has some crackers in it. You'd love that, Duncan. I'm not sure you've seen that yet, but it's amazing.
I haven't seen him yet. I don't get out of the house anymore. I'm pretty...
Oh, you have to come to London with me. We'll go and see a show.
The cross between COVID and family life, it's just like there is an outside somewhere. I haven't seen it in some time. But I would like to. But I don't know if you ever see the show Arrested Development.
Yes.
comedy series. They had this amazing scene in that where they're doing like a karaoke scene, and the uncle and the niece are up singing "Skyrockets in Flight."
Oh,
and you
yeah.
don't realise just how bad that song is until you see an uncle and a niece singing it together on stage. It's the world's most awkward scene, but it's absolutely brilliant.
That is so underrated, that show as well. It's a shame.
Yeah.
I think the latest season as well, just off track a little bit, is trying to get back to the earlier format, because
I wish they left it at series 3. They just had the perfect, it fit. They didn't need to do anything more with it, but yeah.
Little things like the chicken dance, and everybody gets it wrong.
My son does that. It's gone onto Roblox or something. Fortnite do it.
Do they?
And my son's seen it on YouTube, and he does this whole chicken dance thing now. And it's like, that's from Arrested Development.
Rach, has anyone made it big after you've given them their vocal coaching?
Yeah, one of my students, actually, he was one of the only reasons why I watched Britain's Got Talent the other week was because my student was on it, not as a competitor, but with the cast of Hairspray. He's called Cody, and he grew up in the same village as me. He's lovely, just like the loveliest, I would say, kid, because I met him when he was 12. He was in my show choir, and he's now this like incredible adult. And he judged for my competition that I ran earlier in the year for like mental health fundraising, and he went into the cast of Hairspray. So if you watch the one on Britain's Got Talent, Cody's the one in the green. He's like behind, like to the side of Michael Ball most of the time. You're like, look at this, my boy.
Well, that competition was a great idea as well that you had, the mental health one, because I entered that. I didn't get through, but I entered. I got a very nice email saying, almost there.
Where did it all begin for you? Did you have any inspirations?
Well, I've always sung. My parents have always said that I just always sang from a little girl, and I have a condition called synesthesia, which means I see music as colours and I hear it as like I taste it sometimes as well. Weird, it's quite common in musicians actually. So quite a few like Billy Joel, Pharrell Williams, Tori Amos.
It's common in autism, funnily enough.
Yes. So I always wonder if I'm a little bit on the spectrum actually. People often refer to it as my superpower, which is a bit of a rubbish superpower in terms that I can't fly or like deal. Yeah.
My superpower is I convert bacon to energy. It's great.
That is amazing. I just assumed that everybody had this condition because I thought it was just normal until I was older and my parents were like, no, we don't sing, no, we just hear music. And I was like, oh, right. So I've always kind of had this extra sense for it, and I've just always written songs. They've just always been in my head, and then I'd sing a bit to my parents and I'd say, whose song is this? Thinking that I'd heard it on the radio, and they were like, well, we don't know it. And I was like, oh, perhaps I wrote it. Maybe it's me.
You have a master's in songwriting, don't you?
Yes. So I did my songwriting things like this. I don't know whether you feel the same, Duncan, but sometimes you think, oh, I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing. Maybe I should properly get some kind of formal qualification, then I feel like I'm a real person at doing the thing that I do. So I decided to do a master's in songwriting, and I learned that collaborative writing is my absolute favourite thing. So I just love working with other people. It's just my favourite ever thing to do. I don't mind writing on my own, I still do that, but yeah, co-writing with somebody else is just when it's the right person, and it's just amazing.
Magic that happens there. And I kind of fell into songwriting when I got it because it was the 90s, and I was in my early 20s and got asked, oh, we're starting a punk band, do you want to join? Oh yeah. And we had this guy who used to write the music, and then in all seriousness, he got told by his mum he wasn't allowed to play with us anymore just after we recorded our first demo tape. And it was like, yeah, mum said I can't play with you anymore. Oh, it's the most un-rock and roll excuse ever, isn't it? It's like, you're almost expecting to make up an excuse. Oh, I've got to go into rehab, guys. I'm sorry. But yeah. So it's like, maybe I'll try writing a song then. And that's where it came from for me, was purely that no one else was doing it. And we suddenly had this band with no songwriter, and it was a bit awkward. But it's once you do it, you fall in love with the process of it, and you tap into a part of your brain you never have before, I think. It was one of the singers from, there's a band called DC Talk, Christian band, but he said that there's something about music that takes words to a place that words can't be taken alone. I thought, wow, that's inspired. That
really is, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever doubted your ability?
Yeah, God, all the time. I'm an idiot, you know, I think we all have that. I've tried to kind of grow out of the imposter syndrome, but I think I still have it. But yeah, when I finished my degree in music, my bachelor's degree, I was still doing kind of classical singing then, because I was trained to be an opera singer, which clearly has turned out really well for me.
You're not fat enough. I'd be a great opera singer.
Not anymore. You would have been years
True.
ago.
Yeah.
I
would have been a fabulous one 10 years ago. Yeah.
Exactly. You could have made it.
I could have played the cannonball.
So I finished my undergraduate degree, and I felt so kind of disillusioned by everything. And because you've only got a small number of people judging you for things, because quite often music degrees have a very small department of staff, and they're all very, 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 very specific in what they do. And that's what we all do. As we get more and more specialised in something, we get better and better at this one tiny area. So quite often lecturers have a specialism, and then they're not as interested in anything else. So I wrote about PJ Harvey for my dissertation.
That's an obscure reference, but that's wicked.
It is. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah. And they just didn't really know what to do with me, I think. So therefore it was like, because it wasn't normal, it was therefore bad or just not good enough. So I got a very, very average degree and was a bit like, oh, I'm actually not actually that good. And I just didn't sing for a year, but not even in the shower, or I just didn't sing. And I just became really afraid of being bad at the one thing that I thought I was good at. And then eventually moved back to Somerset, and I gradually started easing my way back into doing some singing and things, getting in touch with people that I'd worked with before, because that felt kind of safe. And then I started kind of building myself back up, and then I started teaching, and then before I knew it, I was like, oh, I'm doing, this is my career now, this is what I'm doing. And I, you know, a year before I could barely get out the front door of my house. And I'm glad that happened now, because when my students have these kind of crises of confidence, I say, I know exactly what you mean. I've been, you know. You're
really good at that side of things, aren't you? Like you seem to, throughout your career and, you know, everything you're doing now, you seem to look at the obstacles you face. I think the reason I really wanted you on this, and I think Chris will agree, we're doing this because we have been thrust into a situation where we realised our kids aren't the same as everybody else's. That's not a bad thing, but how do we make a positive thing from that? You know, because everything gets so serious around all this stuff. So we wanted to do something that just put out a positive spin on things in a way. But you do that in such a remarkable way, like songwriting competition and the talent competition you did online. The book that you're writing at the moment, or you've written at the moment, that's being published, you seem to take your experiences with things that people are really cagey about, often depression, postnatal depression. You seem to find a way to put a positive spin on it, but actually make it something that you're destigmatizing and demystifying, because you're doing so much to promote the openness and talking about it.
Yeah, I've had some small notoriety with various things, and people seem to like interviewing me about stuff. And I'm like, okay, I've been through things that a lot of other people go through, depression and postnatal depression, things, you know, in the music industry and things. And I think, well, we can kind of hide away from that and just pretend that our lives are perfect and we've been untouched by those things. But what use is that to anybody? And like, if like what you guys are doing, if you go through something, the best thing you can do is help other people. If a bad thing, or, you know, a difficult thing happens, but you do something good with it, then it's not really that bad a thing. It can still be a difficult thing, a thing you've had to, you know, be challenged by. If you can just help one other person who might be struggling, then it really feels worth it. So I'm quite happy to be open about things, because I'm still here. Like I've come through those things. There's a lot of people who don't survive postnatal depression, don't survive depression.
Well, you may not know this, but I mean, if anyone watching hasn't guessed already, I know Rachel from a while back. One of the things that you were able to do is reach out to my wife when she went through postnatal depression, and her time communicating with you and making that contact with you really helped her through that. And I mean, that led to other diagnoses for us with bipolar and stuff like that. You really directly had a massive influence in taking her through that really dark time into a place that was full of hope again.
I didn't know that. That's so. I mean, I feel so blessed to have to encounter these amazing people in my life, and you and Tracy are just like the most awesome people.
You heard it here, folks, in the comments.
Well, both your babies are genuine miracles, and that's when I first met you. Different things I love for Chris Cornell, we've always talked about,
and Linkin Park at the same time.
And Linkin Park, yeah,
Chester fans, weren't we?
Exactly.
There you go. That's the reason why the music industry needs this kind of message so badly.
It feels such a privilege to be able to, be part of their lives in any small way. And if there's anything I could never say that would make their lives a little bit better, it's just a real honour to be able to do anything like that. I think that's what's led me to help, doing things with other people with postnatal depression, because it's like 1 in 7, and dads really struggle with it too. And there's not much said about that because, dads are supposed to just be manly and get on with it. But a lot of dads really struggle, particularly if their partner's struggling too.
I can testify to that, yeah.
It's not this brilliant time, oh, there's a baby and everything's great. Sometimes it's really not great.
I mean, you'll remember Sienna just didn't sleep. It's like she was allergic to melatonin or something like that. She just couldn't sleep. The first night home, and she didn't sleep, and it was just like, you wake up in the morning and I'm not going to live through this. I'm not going to make it.
And it's just, and the more tired you are, the worse your mental health gets, and it's like this horrible knock-on effect. And during the pandemic, it's just been so much worse for women, because these poor women are giving birth on their own quite often. The health visitors can't come and visit. They don't get midwife visits, and you can't have family come and visit. Like, I don't know what I would have done without my parents, who live really nearby. They were so amazing.
Your parents are awesome. Can I tell you a funny story?
Go on. Will they be embarrassed?
You won't be. I apologise to your dad now. We all got invited over to dinner at their parents' place. All I heard about was how great Rachel's dad's cooking is, and from everybody raving about it. He's a really good cook. But he made this, it was like a Moroccan chicken. And I think he must have used every lemon in Bristol to put into this thing, because it was like, everyone at the table was like,
lemony, lemony.
Oh, would you like any more? And I was like, oh, no, I'm full, It was the most. I couldn't say, oh, mate, that's a bit lemony.
I think he's calmed the lemon down now, because he makes it for my children as well, and they just be like, I don't like this.
I forgot to say about that. I went to Tesco's the other day and forgot to put my mask on.
You hypocrite.
It was horrible.
You get a lot of looks.
And I walked in and I had my trolley on me. I went to the cleaning station, which no mask, but I'm going to clean my trolley. So I'm there rubbing my hands doing this, and a member of staff kind of shouts over from about 6 meters away and goes, excuse me, have you got a mask? All of a sudden I realised it's not on my face, and I went, I've got 2. I've got them in my pocket. And they went, no. Thinking like me saying this is a mistake, and she'd realised that I'm going to put it on straight away. No. You only need to wear 1 mask. You don't. And I did turn around to her because I was so tired. I went, honestly, I'm not a dickhead.
Well,
she didn't know me. I can claim whatever I want, can't I? Yeah. It was horrible, though. Absolutely horrible.
I think almost every time I have to do a round journey back to my car, because I get to the door and go, oh, bollocks, I've forgotten it again. And again, I'll get like to a shop and the cars, and I do the old, I'm running, quickly grab, bye. There's a lot of turtling going on nowadays, I've noticed. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, with today's music, say, for instance, the top 40, what's your opinion of it?
It's the top 40 is interesting, and I always try and listen to what's going on in the charts now, and in any genre of music, there's always good examples and then not so good examples. It's the same in classical music, musical theatre, everything. But there are some really talented writers. Quite often now it's collaborative writing. So like Uptown Funk, for example, which I know isn't new, but it's old. But like 15 different writers wrote that. Yeah. So a lot of things have a particular sound, and that EDM kind of thing is like the new thing. Whereas, people often think, back when the Beatles were writing everything, they wrote everything. There was very few songs they did that weren't written by them. They did their own thing, so they would write and perform their songs. So it's not that music now isn't real music. It's just very different how things are made.
I think that's the thing. Music, It took me a long time to learn this. I was the world's biggest metal snob when I was a kid. If it didn't have crunchy guitars and someone wailing, I wasn't interested. I've sort of come to this point now where I really appreciate, it may not be a music that, with the possible exception of country and western, I think any music has value. Just because it doesn't speak to me doesn't mean it doesn't speak to somebody else. What I love is that it permeates every single culture on earth from history. There is no culture that doesn't have some form of music attached to it. I'm trying to be very patient with my daughter at the moment because she's getting into pop, and it's kind of like fingers down a chalkboard in some ways with me, but I'm trying to be, no, it's good. You love music, and I'm going to encourage that. But I tell you what, some of it, yeah.
It's one of the things that really grated on me is that there's a real science behind today's music. So they will put something out because in, say, the 60s, 70s and 80s, record labels had to take a hell of a gamble because it wasn't guaranteed a return. They could put it out and it tanks. They've lost their investment. Now in today's world, they have almost the songs written and put out there. So they sound very similar, much less gamble that they're going to lose their money on someone.
That's true, but there's the other side of it as well, because there's always the pendulum swinging to both sides. So you've got this very manufactured, very commercialized, very formulaic form of writing, which is what's always going to be in the top 40 and what's being pumped out. But I know a lot of musicians don't like things like Spotify and streaming services, but I say God bless them, because there are so many bands I know of who are actually getting their music out there where they wouldn't have been able to before, because they can form a small record label of their own, put their own music together, put it onto Spotify, and then start promoting it, and through all the other options. I mean, the guys who do the theme music that we've got at the beginning of this podcast and on my PDA podcast, it's a band called The Fallen State, and they've just been putting together EPs and chucking them on Spotify and doing live shows. For whatever's happening commercially, there's always the reaction to that at the same time. And things like Spotify and YouTube and iTunes and all this sort of stuff that are out there means that there is actually a really loud voice. And if all you have to do is go crawling and trawling for it a little bit, and you'll find this amazing plethora of new music out there that's written by real people who are just writing a song from the heart, you know, whether it's on an acoustic, a piano, a flute, or a bloody recorder for all I care. It's getting out there.
Definitely. You just got to look for it a bit more, I think. I judge a lot of songwriting competitions too, so I get to hear a lot of things that are being written now by all kinds of people, and it's really interesting, the different things that are coming out, and there's so many different categories now because it's just so varied. Like pop isn't really enough of a, it's just too wide a category, so now they've split it into different things. It's really interesting, so I get to hear all kinds of different music, and some of it isn't necessarily things that I would listen to, but I can hear the merit of how well it's written within that genre. So it's it's really made me listen to a lot of other things that I may not have if I was just going to listen to the top 40 and say that's it, that is all the music.
Question to you both: what was the last thing you listened to when you found something and it gave you goosebumps?
There's one song that always does. I mean, I hear songs all the time because I have students singing to me, so I've kind of slightly desensitized myself to things, because otherwise I'd just be crying all the time and that would just be embarrassing. Pull yourself together. But there's one song and it's a particular version of the song. It's One by U2, but the version with Mary J. Blige singing in it. The first time I ever heard that was it was like MTV or something, and my first husband and I just split up. He announced that he was in love with somebody else, and I moved back to my parents' house, and my sister had just finished uni, so she was living there as well at that time, and so we were just sitting watching MTV, and that song came on, and there's the line in it: love is a temple, love is a higher law, you asked for me to enter and then you made me crawl. And I was like, that is exactly how I feel. And it's one of the few songs that I struggle to listen to and hold it together. Like most, I can listen to the wedding music for my wedding. I can listen to the song Layla, that's Layla's song, and loads of other stuff like that that's got an emotional connection. But that song really, it's like, oh, when I hear that particular version.
Life has a soundtrack, doesn't it? Because that's a really good question, Chris. And I mean, I think I've had it twice recently 3 times, actually. I can think of the 3 songs. One was my favourite song of all time, which is Blackbird by Alter Bridge. That's a song that Miles Kennedy, he wrote it about one of his best friends when he was growing up, who was really ill and died really young. And he wrote these lyrics, and they're just, he captured the feeling. And it's one of those songs that you think would be really depressing, but it's completely the opposite. It's really uplifting. Another one is a song called Nova by, again, The Fallen State, written by one of their guitarists, Dan, after he lost his daughter. And they wrote this song called Nova, and it just gets you. It's like,
You sent me as well. Yeah, that's beautiful, that one.
an amazing song. And funnily enough, Chris Robertson from Blackstone Cherry ended up falling in love with that song and did a version with them as well. And because that's the other song I was going to mention, is Blackstone Cherry did a song in the last couple of years called One Last Breath. And it's, if all I had left was one last breath, here's what I'd spend it on. I'd tell them, you were my world and she was my girl, if all I had left was one last breath. And it's all about this celebration of family and love. And it's like, it gets me every time. It's just this bluesy feel of the song, and it's like,
I think when we do feel the strongest about these songs, it's almost like a perfect storm. We may be going through something, and then it's either a lyric, something that musically that happens in the song, and all of a sudden it hits so hard, you're used to it for the rest of your life. You hear it, and it rushes everything back to you again. For me, lyrically, I do like John Legend, All of Me, which is a fantastic song. Mine's always been the instrumental, like the one I sent you, Duncan, which was Rodrigo Y. Gabriela.
My husband absolutely loves them.
Never seen them before, and there was a clip on Twitter for about 15 seconds, and I was searching everywhere trying to find, because they never said the name of the pair, because they were playing in Dublin. And I was searching high and low. It almost took me half a day to find these two. When I finally found it, and I think it's a song called Tamakan, just hearing the strings and the melody and how they were working together and playing a guitar sort of not traditionally, I just got this huge sort of rush.
Funnily enough, one that's come up recently for us, Tracy's fallen in love with. I went and saw Alter Bridge live at the end of last year, and one of the bands that opened up with them was a band called Shinedown, who are a big band in their own right. They've written this song called Get Up, and it was actually the sing. So this is my problem. I have to know where everything's come from. I end up researching all the stuff behind what song lyrics mean and all that kind of stuff. The singer had written it about the bass player who was going through depression, who had been through depressions himself, has I think, probably a depressive personality in some way. But it's one of those songs that, again, could be really low, but it's actually, no, it's get up, get a move on, get up, there's nothing wrong, you can do this, basically, is what the song's saying. I believe in you. And it's like, it's one of those songs that really, Tracy, with everything that she's experienced with depression, it really, really resonates with her. She loves it. She can't get enough of that song. Thanks so much, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear your comments. Please, if you have anything to say, if you have any questions you'd like to ask any of us, or we'll pass them on to Rachel, put them down in the comments. Huge thank you to Chris.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And a massive, massive thank you to Rachel. Thank you so much for being our guest this week.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on.
Amen.
Yeah, anytime. It's great. My kids are asleep, so I can just chat for ages.
Your kids sleep?
Currently. Maybe not at 6 a.m, but...
Oh, fair enough.
We'll
Thanks a lot,
go,
guys.
Yeah.
Hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next week.